Good morning. I'm Sunnyvale Mayor Larry Klein. Thanks for joining me again this week at our early start time. Welcome to September. Fall is right around the corner. I hope that everyone's doing well, staying healthy. This is the 77th installment of my weekly virtual office hour address. We've now reached 536 days since the March 16th, 2020 county health order started the whole shelter in place to slow the spread of COVID-19. More than a year and a half ago, I converted my weekly coffee shop hours, office hours into a live stream address and haven't missed a week since. People really say they enjoy hearing from their mayor every week, and whether or not they can watch this live or, tune in a little bit later. But, these sessions are great because they allow me to kind of look back on the last 2 weeks or so. And, they allow me to give you some updates, some news, answer some of your questions, of course, and just pass on some general words of encouragement. I continue to follow our, virtual address with a short few hours downtown on Murphy Avenue. So I'm at Bean Scene from around 9:15 to 11:30, depending upon the day and how many people need to speak to me. But I just want to thank you for allowing me to continue to represent you and work for Sunnyvale uh, during, let's say, crazy times. I hope everyone's staying well and, of course, wearing your mask again, which is really critical. A few months ago, I started changing my background art every week with a Sunnyvale artist. So I want to thank those Sunnyvale artists that continue to provide me art. Today's piece is called Migration. I think it's a pretty impressive piece. I really like the black and white of the zebras in the background. So if you want to purchase that piece, Gwendolyn Domingo is the artist. And if you want to purchase it, just reach out to me and I'll be happy to put you in contact with her. Let's go ahead and get started and talk about what's happened at the federal, state, county, and city level over the last 2 weeks. Last Monday, the FDA approved the Pfizer vaccine for individuals 16 years of age and older. So they granted full approval. And that basically paves the way for the Pentagon to mandate the vaccine for active duty service members. It's still seen as emergency approval for those that are 13 years of age or 12 years of age, 12 to 15 years of age. So 12, 13, 14, 15. So, and definitely you're starting to hear more companies and, definitely more jurisdictions that are requiring the vaccine for their employees. Last Monday, President Biden then kind of pushed on that FDA full approval by encouraging businesses to require vaccinations among their employees. And so we've seen some businesses doing it, and some of them doing kind of what the city's doing is, okay, vaccination or being tested regularly. So that depends upon, the institution to a large degree. Last Monday evening, I had joined multiple people to kick off Silicon Valley Pride Week, and I was happy to have that first event right here in Sunnyvale. So there was a drag queen cooking showdown at Homewood Sunnyvale, and so the Homewood Sunnyvale's on El Camino Real, right next to the Dunkin' Donuts near Wolf Road. And pancakes. I met Pancakes was the winner with a really fantastic meal. But it was great to just see so many friends and have a small event. It wasn't a big event. It was all outside, and I had fellow judges, including Supervisor Otto Lee and Don Mayer, our CEO of the Sunnyvale Chamber, help kind of do the judging for the dishes and the mocktails and kind of that full meal. But I just want to thank the event sponsors, Homewood Sunnyvale, of course, Mix 1065, and the New Seasons Market, who provided all the food and provided, basically gift cards for the winner. So, it was just kind of nice to have an in-person event here in Sunnyvale, especially to kick off Pride Week and Silicon Valley Pride specifically. Last Tuesday, I spoke at the California State Citizens Redistricting Committee. And so ultimately, this is based upon the 2020 census. What's currently happening is the state redistricting committee is looking at how the borders for the congressional districts and the state and state assembly and state senate districts need to be changed from a border standpoint as the population's changed. And so I mainly spoke about maintaining Sunnyvale as a whole city in all whatever districts in all those districts, but specifically I spoke about remaining in the 17th congressional district, and so that's Ro Khanna's district. And it's not specifically because of Ro Khanna, which I have a good relationship, and that's always a positive thing to have a good relationship with your congressman, but it's the only minority majority congressional district in the continental U.S. And that's really important not to dilute the voting power of the Asian American Pacific Islander majority in that district and kind of in our community. And so I think it's important from that standpoint. And what City Council did about 3 weeks ago was approve that advocacy from a city standpoint. And so if you want to give your input, there's still ongoing meetings. They're still taking input from citizens, but you can go to wedrawthelinesca.org and either give written testimony or join in, by phone or by Zoom at one of the upcoming meetings. Last Wednesday, I kicked off the end of the summer series. So that it's been a shortened summer series. During August, we've had Wednesday and Saturday nights. But our Wednesday night rock ended last Wednesday, and it was good to see everyone out there. Even if it was a shortened series, I think people really enjoyed being out, and ultimately, I think it's good for the downtown businesses to bring people there. And I just want to thank all the sponsors, and of course, I also want to thank the county. County Health brought their vaccination van, and I had met multiple people that had finally received their first vaccination. So that was actually a positive thing also. Making it as easy as possible to get vaccinated for those who want to get vaccinated. And then last Friday, OSH officially opened, and so I was able to finally go by there last week. But it was in there. They had a soft opening a day before, but officially they opened. So you can go by. It's the location on Hollenbeck, right near Homestead, and of course it's a new company. Lowe's purchased OSH and then closed all those stores, but a new company came together with some of the old people that were part of OSH to create a rebranded Outdoor Supply Hardware, and it's actually very similar to the old store. So, ultimately happy that we have a new store opening up in our city. So definitely, if you get a chance, go by this weekend. It's Labor Day weekend, and I'm sure they will have lots of sales like so many stores are having. Last Saturday was the last Saturday of Jazz and Beyond on Murphy Avenue. There'll be actually music this Saturday, although it's not going to be the big party and dancing like they had before. It's basically all the restaurants will have their chairs out at, I'll say, the normal locations. So they'll be fully covering the street, but there will be additional live music downtown tomorrow night if you want to go. Last Sunday was Silicon Valley Pride's Pride Parade through downtown San Jose, and it took a little while to get going. If you happen to go by, they were supposed to start at 10 and didn't really kick off until about 10:45. But it was good to see their lots of our county supervisors. So I met, talked with Cindy Chavez and President Wasserman and Joe Simidian, but I think it was also positive that they honored the Grand Marshal Zoe Lofgren. So she got to ride in the car at the front. But it was just good to see everybody and have such a festive location or festive event going on. And they actually ended up at Plaza del Cesar Chavez with music and lots of other entertainment and booths and all that. So it was a good way to end Silicon Valley Pride Week. Sunday on Sunday, VT also finally restarted light rail. So they restarted that service. It will continue to expand over the coming month, but that was restarted. And then on Monday, Caltrain rolled out a new schedule. So lots of transportation and kind of coming back. So they brought back the baby bullet, although none in Sunnyvale. I've been doing lots of advocacy on that over the last few years. When they add another baby bullet, then we will finally start getting baby bullet service here in Sunnyvale. The big thing is they made it much more of a mirror service level. So they're basically doing, and we get 3 trains per hour right now, and it's limited. So it's you have the very slow train that's hitting every station, and then you have limited trains, and we are getting the limited trains. We're just not getting the baby bullet. But there's better transfers with BART. There's more evening and midday service, another Gilroy train, and I think they tried to make it a little more active for not just the commuters, but for anybody who wants to use Caltrain. And especially for the month of September, fares are 50% off. So if you haven't ridden Caltrain for a while, now's the time to do it. You can go through and get a little discount on that rate. And then on Tuesday, Santa Clara Board of Supervisors met, and they unanimously passed a no confidence resolution on Sheriff Lori Smith. And so, this was about 2 weeks after they requested the state and federal officials launch an investigation of the operations of our South Bay jails, and of course, certain corruption scandals that have happened, that have happened in her office over the last 10 years. And so with a 5-0 vote, and it's mainly symbolic because our county sheriff doesn't directly report to the county supervisors. She is an elected official, although they kind of maintain the purse strings around her budget. So there are questions from that standpoint, but Supervisor Simidian and Supervisor Ellenberg brought forth kind of that proposal, and it passed 5-0. And it was more, a lot from what they were doing from their resolution is it was mainly a hope that it will speed up reforms as well as kind of fuel that external probe that's going on, as well as kind of saying start looking at how you're going to transition. So it's really pushing her not to run for re-election in 2022. So we'll see what happens from that standpoint. But there were a lot of that no confidence resolution. Basically was about the major injuries that occurred in the jail, and of course the subsequent multi-million-dollar settlements that have happened. Lori Smith. So Sheriff Smith was on the offensive, kind of talking about that a lot of this was that she was actually being railroaded by the supervisors and kind of scapegoating her for the broader safety net deficiencies that have happened, at the jail. It's mainly, we don't have a good place to deal with mental health and substance abuse problems in the county, and the jail. I think a third of their clients at the jail are related to mental health and substance abuse, and so she was pushing back to a large degree on that. But of course, there are also bribery scandals and other things that have happened under her watch, and I think that was the tipping point of either the settlements from some of the insurance claims, or some of the scandals that have occurred finally pushed them to kind of push back. And as far as our city council, we met on Tuesday, and it was a fairly busy evening. We started off with a resolution of support for the people of Afghanistan. I heard from community members and from council members that they would really like council to bring forward some sort of resolution to support the Afghan people. And I think everyone has really been concerned by the events that have unfolded and continue to unfold in Afghanistan, especially last week's uh, events have been very difficult to watch. The between the airlifts going out and some of those video, and then of course the devastation of a terrorist attack, and loss of so many lives. 13 U.S. service members as well as dozens of others on the ground, other citizens. So ultimately, our Sunnyvale values are based, on diversity and, welcoming. And that was one of the changes that we made to the final resolution is welcoming refugees from all of our countries, from all countries into our city. And I think that's really important uh, from a city standpoint. That diversity is part of our um, of our quality of life, and it's really important from our community standards. And so from that standpoint, I think it's really good. And what we've done from a city standpoint is make it is as welcoming as possible. And no matter what country you come from, no matter what your nationality, what your race, what your beliefs, who you love, all that is part of our values. And it's making sure that people are all those people are welcome in our city. So I think it really matched up with our city values, and was happy to do that. We also reviewed the data collected for the temporary eastbound closure of Tasman Drive during COVID-19, and that was one of the things that I pushed last year. That I'd been delivering masks in North Sunnyvale when the shelter in place was starting and nobody could find masks. And when I was delivering masks, I was seeing people walking along Tasman. So when light rail went in the 1990s along Tasman, there was a push that that the residents wanted to keep the trees. They didn't want sidewalks. So their sidewalks are part of that, but not the whole thing. And so I worked with the city manager to bring forth something that ultimately closed down one of the two eastbound lanes on Tasman. And what that allowed, of course, is people to bike and walk uh, from Lawrence Expressway to Fair Oaks. And so, which was really important because there was a grocery outlet there, and making sure that people felt safe walking and biking as much as possible, I thought was really critical. So that's been closed for the last year. Ultimately, we council considered whether to extend that lane closure, and earlier this year we said we were going to start a study issue to look at the long-term options of either lane closure or what we could do as far as uh, putting in sidewalks, or what we want to do along that corridor. But council also ultimately decided to keep the eastbound lane closed for another 12 months and put some sort of threshold in there that if traffic levels rise too much, then staff, if there starts to be queuing and it becomes an emergency issue or a safety issue, then the city manager has that ability to open that lane back up. Ultimately, I think a lot of companies have already said that they're going to be pushing back the start date for bringing employees back to work, or only in a little bit limited thing, and at least until January of 2022. And so I think it was good to continue that, especially while that study issue continues. We also Council also decided to remove on-street parking on Willow Avenue. And so Willow Avenue is the street that's right next to Lawrence Expressway, right near Reed, Old San Francisco Road, that's just south of the Caltrain station. So it basically removed a certain amount of off-street or on-street parking and made buffer bike lanes around that area to make it safer to travel, to get to the Caltrain station and all of that. So I think that was positive from a certain standpoint. On Wednesday, Governor Newsom was in Oakland to highlight that California has now reached 80% of eligible Californians who have received at least one dose of the vaccine. He also received some positive polling information that the recall will most likely fail. So the recall, just as a reminder, you still have plenty of time to get in your ballot. It's due on September 14th, and definitely there will be certain you can drop off at the library. There's drop-off locations around the city, as well as there'll be actual polling places that will be opening up in the next week to do voting in person if you want. So the last day, of course, is Tuesday, September 14th. Make sure that you get your ballot in. And let's go ahead and get to the weekly COVID numbers. Let me take a drink. COVID cases continue to increase, so the Delta variant is really affecting us from a national standpoint. We've now reached 39.5 million cases. That's increased about 1.5 million just in the last week, and that's up from 1.2 million a week ago. So, you know, we're doing well with vaccines, but of course the number of cases continue to increase, mainly because of the Delta variant. We've had almost 206 million vaccinated with at least one dose, so about 74.5% of adults had that one dose, and almost 63.7% of adults are fully vaccinated. So we're seeing those numbers slowly trend up. You know, we're still having people that are affected by and dying because of COVID. You know, we've had 641,000 deaths. That's more than 10,000 just in the last week, and that's up from 8,000, you know, increase from a week ago. California is still increasing. We're still seeing about 10,000 cases a day. We are now at 4.2 million positive COVID-19 cases that we've seen. And, you know, we've had about over 65,000 fatalities. So it's up about 600 just in the last week. On the positive note, you know, we've had 47 million vaccines administered, about 700,000 just in the last week. And so from a state standpoint, we're still at number 9 on states with residents with at least one dose at 82.6%. And we're still at number 16 on states with residents that are fully vaccinated. And so, you know, it's 67.3% is fully vaccinated. So all those are positive from a state standpoint. Yesterday, the county reported a cumulative case rate of cumulative cases of over 135,000. Up about, no, it's 155,000, up about 3,000 just in the last week, and that's up from 2,000 a week ago. And a lot of that has to do with people being exposed. The Delta variant is a lot more contagious, and we've had 1,731 deaths, 10 additional deaths just in the last week. But our vaccination rate is doing really well. We've had 87.2% of the county age 12 and above with at least one dose, and 81.8% of those 12 and above are fully vaccinated. So, you know, those are great numbers around the county, and it's the best county of our size in the nation. You know, we're number 1 in all the counties above 1 million residents. So thank you to everyone who's got their vaccine. It does make a difference. You know, I continue to do a lot of advocating on our city's behalf, you know, especially at the county level. I have conversations with county health and our county supervisors on a weekly basis, or more than usually multiple times during the week. You know, if you need to get tested, you can find a location to get tested at secfreetest.org. And then as far as vaccinations, you know, we had the county drop-in van at the music downtown last week, and of course there's, you know, the senior center workers are helping people set up vaccination appointments in home if needed, and you can just go to secfreevax.org. if you want to find out the drop-in locations around the county, as well as where you can set up an actual appointment. And the county, and the county had one at Lakewood Elementary earlier this week, and they had one at Bishop Elementary earlier this week for the kids, as well as the parents and anybody else who might want to show up and get vaccinated. And they've also committed to having a pop-up at El Dorado Mobile Home Park next month. So I'm continuing to find locations where where people reach out that multiple people in a community need to get vaccinated in a neighborhood, and trying to get the county to do a pop-up van in that location. So we'll see what we can do. Let me go ahead and give you some upcoming events. Monday, of course, is Labor Day. So most city offices, the library will be closed, and everything will reopen on Tuesday. Monday is also, of course, the beginning of Rosh Hashanah for those who are the Jewish faith and celebrating. So I'll actually be joining some family, some friends to celebrate that. So it'll be actually good to be out there celebrating that holiday. On Saturday, September 11th, around 8:30 a.m., there will be a small, commemoration for 9/11. It's the 20-year ceremony, and that will be happening at Fire Station number 2. It's not a, it's mainly by invite event. We're keeping that very small. However, if you're the public and you're happening nearby Fire Station 2, you can kind of witness that ceremony. It's going to be a relatively short ceremony. We're still trying, because of COVID, maintaining, let's say, a smaller footprint for those outdoor gatherings as much as possible. On Sunday, September 12th at 10 a.m., there will be an Eveline Trail bike infrastructure ride. And so we recently got state funding for that, and I just want to thank Senator Becker. Eveline Trail has been something, kind of a passion project for quite a few years. Council approved the Eveline Trail study back in 2017 when I first got on council. I had actually proposed it 10 years ago and got shot down, and brought it back, and council approved it. It finally got added to our active transportation plan in August of 2020, August of 2020, just a year ago. And then it was basically trying to get funded. Ultimately, we gave a list of infrastructure projects to Senator Becker with this year's state budget, and that was the one that his office chose. So I was actually very happy from that standpoint that finally that project is moving forward, and the concept is creating I'll say, Stevens Creek-like trail between downtown Mountain View and downtown Sunnyvale. Ultimately, this pays for at least the area from Sunnyvale to the border. And who will be part of that ride is some of the council members, as well as some of the residents from Mountain View and Sunnyvale, to look at what could be done along that corridor, and making it safer for people to bike and walk and all that. And it's really good because it would connect two Caltrain stations, the one in Mountain View, the one in Sunnyvale, but it also would be a good connection for our residents into the Stevens Creek Trail. So a lot of positive things with that project, and I'm happy that we actually have funding, and hopefully that will be moving forward. And then, of course, council will actually have 3 meetings this month. So we have our next meeting on Wednesday, September 8th. And so it's actually a Wednesday meeting as opposed to normally having them on Tuesday. This will be a review of a planning commission decision from July on the redevelopment of Fremont Corners. And so this is, so it's kind of 3 different properties, and this is the first. So this is the eastern portion, and ultimately the eastern portion is proposed to be a mixed-use development with about 8,000 square feet of commercial space. And that's, at least in looking at these Planning Commission report, it's kind of envisioned to be part of Jake's and a second restaurant. And then beyond the commercial space, there'd also be 50 four-story townhomes, so condos, that would be part of that project. And so council is bringing that up to review. Normally, that would have stayed because of zoning. That would have actually stopped at Planning Commission, but we've called it up for review for several things that we would like to go through. So if you want to give feedback on that, but that's the eastern portion. The center portion where sports 24-hour sports is going to stay, and then of course the western portion, from a western portion standpoint, that is also a secondary project that's being proposed. And then on Tuesday, September 14th, council will have several items on the agenda, but from a study session standpoint, so study sessions will be starting at 4:30. We'll be talking about two different things, one of which are memorandums from council to do proposals, but the other thing is reviewing the short-term rental ordinance enforcement. One of the things that people probably heard about is the shooting at an Airbnb that happened last month, and we're looking at what we could do to better enforce our requirements from a short-term rental standpoint, making sure that it is hosted by the owner and other things. And then, of course, reviewing the Lawrence Station Plan EIR. And so that's the environmental impact report of the new vision for the Lawrence Station specific plan. And so ultimately that was defining that area around our Lawrence Station, adding housing, adding commercial, adding office space in that whole area. So we'll be reviewing that on the 14th. And then on September 18th, and also a Tuesday night, sorry, not 18th, September 28th, the Tuesday night 2 weeks later, we'll review a proposal to remove parking along Sunnyvale Avenue and install bike lanes from Maud Avenue to Hendy, or basically Eveline, kind of connecting that bike, adding those bike lanes in kind of a missing portion. And so definitely I've received lots of letters on that, on both sides of that. And then we'll also review the general plan amendment for 974 East Arquez, and so that's where Intuitive Surgical is building, a new headquarters and a new manufacturing plant. So Intuitive Surgical is one of our biggest employers, and it doesn't get a lot of publicity, but it's right there near the Lawrence Station, so it's actually good from that standpoint. Let's go ahead and get to our weekly questions. First up, Leslie asked, are there any plans to keep the downtown pedestrian-only area after the pandemic? We went to downtown for dinner last night, and it was so pleasant to have the whole street blocked off. So yes, council did direct staff to at least extend that temporary closure until the end of the year, and then we'll continue and we'll re-examine at that point. This, of course, and this has been brought up for, off and on for multiple years, but because of COVID and people feeling a lot more comfortable sitting outside, we ended up closing down Murphy Avenue, historic Murphy, so that it's only pedestrian traffic and bike traffic, and extending the number of chairs and tables that are out there for the restaurants, for the cafes. Ultimately, as we looked more and more into it, it needed to be a study issue because there's bigger issues from both a state standpoint on road funding, as well as kind of a safety standpoint on whether or not we need to create kind of a path down the center, making it easier in case there's a fire, if we're going to do that permanently. So we'll be kicking off a study issue during our study workshop next year. But please keep telling your businesses that you like seeing it close. I think it's been really good from a city standpoint, but ultimately it's the Downtown Business Association that really makes a difference on what they want to do in that area. So you can also email council@sunnyvale.ca.gov and, you know, do other advocacy on how much you like it. It's always good to hear from residents who are enjoying that and keep, you know, instilling that interest. But so, you know, we currently have something planning to come back to council most likely in mid-December on what the long-term, you know, what we'll continue to do. Carrie asked, is there an event page where I can see where all the upcoming fun events are? I never hear about them until after they're over. So, you know, I mention them during my weekly office hour address. I've also added it, and I add them to the mayor's Facebook page, but you can see it on LarryKlein.com calendar, so you can see that on my calendar. I'm looking at creating a mailing list or for kind of an events page so that people can get those email reminders and give the day before email blast on when things are actually going to happen, like the day before, as a last reminder. But if nothing else, you can always go to my Sunnyvale Council or my Larry Klein personal page, LarryKlein.com, and I always have my calendar there. You can see when I'm, you know, doing our live stream, but also doing the in-person office hours downtown Sunnyvale, other events that are happening in our community. Kathleen asked, there was an outreach meeting earlier this month considering removing the parking spaces along Sunnyvale Avenue between Maud and Eveline. What's happening with this decision? So, you know, I've received multiple emails from residents for and against removing that parking. Staff is currently taking comments. It will go to BPAC, or Bicycle Pedestrian Advocacy Commission, on Thursday, September 16th. So if you want to give feedback there, you can join in on that meeting via Zoom. And then it'll come to council, as I said earlier, on September 28th. So you can join in that conversation. Debbie asked, when is the Washington Swim Center going to open? So it was supposed to open on the 9th. There were additional issues, so every time County Health comes through, they point out certain other things that need to get done, either from an ADA standpoint or other things. It will be opening now on September 20th, and so you can, and that the good thing is that the pool will be heated, so you will be able to use that pool year round. It's not going to close down like it did previously. You know, it was always a summer pool in past years, and so this will be open for the rest of the year when it finally opens. So I'm looking forward to that, as so many of our residents are. Jenny asked, I missed the last Redistricting Commission meeting. When is the next one? So, you know, Sunnyvale is currently going through getting community input for redistricting on community of interest. So what our communities of interest are, whether or not that's, you know, mobile home communities or different neighborhoods. There's lots of different ways, school districts, lots of ways you can, you know, slice up the city. But we're, based upon the 2020 census, we'll be redefining those boundaries, and we received some preliminary data, but we won't receive the final data until late in October. But the Redistricting Commission will review public input and take public comment next on Thursday, September 9th. So just about a week from now at 6 p.m. on the 9th. So you can learn more. You can get involved. You can write letters. You can start playing around with the map tools. You can go to sunnyvale.ca.gov/redistricting and learn more there. And finally, let's see. Oh, Cynthia asked, what's going on with the Target ceiling tiles that are falling? When will they reopen? So, you know, the bad news is it wasn't just ceiling tiles, but it was the fire. Basically, the more they investigated that and they brought, you know, contractors in to take a look, it's not just ceiling tiles that have fallen, but they need to redo some of the fire protection along the ceiling at Target. They did a press release about 2 weeks ago that Target would be closed by the end of the year. City staff has actually been working with them, and they're currently looking at bringing contractors to do the actual work, and seeing, city staff is looking at how they can help expedite that. Ultimately, it looks, we're hoping that that's actually going to open before Thanksgiving. So that would be a positive thing, especially with the holiday season right around the corner. But the sooner we can reopen that, the better. Definitely, we want to look at everyone's safety, and especially, fire safety and all that. But they're currently looking at how quickly they can expedite that from a certain standpoint. And Roland asked, of course, how do we get to see you or speak to you again? So you can always email me at mayor@larryklein.com or council@larryklein.com. You can set up an appointment, and I meet people with coffee off and on, but mainly I try to push all of the coffee appointments to Friday mornings. So I'm downtown from 9:15 to about 11:30. So always feel free to, you can drop by if you have a quick question, or if you want, to reserve 15 minutes or 30 minutes, the best thing to do is email me and we can set up that time. And Chuck asked, will there be an Art and Wine Festival this year? So yes, there will be. We're about a month away. So basically October 2nd and 3rd, so the first weekend in October, the Sunnyvale Chamber of Commerce will have, I'll say, a slightly less Art and Wine Festival than happened in previous years. We still are under COVID, but it will be there. We'll have music, they'll have entertainment, but they will have the general art and wine as we always have. So looking forward to that event. I think it's always been positive. Dave asks, the Caltrains going through downtown need to be controlled for how much horn is used. What can we do? So the horns are basically blown because of requirements from a safety standpoint as they go through intersections, as they go into the station, or go through a station. That being said, we're looking at grade separation. So we talked last month about doing grade separations at Sunnyvale and Mary, and ultimately there's several designs, but it's basically we've narrowed those down to 2 different designs, and it's trying to figure out how we'll basically go underneath the Caltrain tracks at those locations. One of the things that we did actually at this past Tuesday's meeting was purchase a piece of land right near Mary to actually assist in one of the designs for the grade separation at Mary. And we also have VTA funds that was part of the Measure B transportation, sales tax that funded, $700 million to go towards Palo Alto, Mountain View, and Sunnyvale for the grade separation at their different crossings where cars still go through across the tracks, and that's always an issue from a certain standpoint. Once the grade separations are done, then definitely you'll hear the horns a lot less than you have in the past. Let's see. I think that's it for questions. Let's see if there's any in the chat. Looks like that is all for today. So, I just want to thank everyone for joining me again. It's always good to have some of our residents, and I've been continually proud of what Sunnyvale's response has been during the pandemic. Over the last year and a half, it hasn't been easy. Has not been easy. The future continues to be uncertain, especially as we go back into the winter months. New issues come up almost every day, but your actions really do make a difference. And I want to thank you for that. You wear your masks, you've gotten your vaccinations, you've done what you need to do to try to help slow the spread of the virus. But you've also continued to help rebuild our community. You've done food drives, you've handed out created masks, you've handed out, you've shared what you have with your neighbors. And I think that's really one of the best things about what's happened in the last year and a half. Sunnyvale will emerge from this as a stronger community. We're in this together. We'll get through this together. Thanks for listening. Take care. And of course, enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Goodbye. Take care.